All right, I think we're live. Um, yeah, guys, hi. My name is Misha Haney. I hope you guys are having a good night tonight. I'm here with my friend Jacob Woodward. We're going to be talking a little bit about his career and about him being just an awesome, fantastic guy in this field called film and television. So yeah, thank you for being here tonight, Jacob.
Thank you for having me on. It's a pleasure, and I'm looking forward to our discussions throughout the night.
Yeah, I am too. So Andrew tells me that you guys work together.
Yeah, we've worked together on quite a lot of stuff. Obviously, like you said before, we have our own like media business called Lauwood Media that we've done quite a bit with. And like you said in the previous episode, it all started with the Quiet Healing documentary that we made. But we also
Hmm.
work together at the same TV station daily. Like we work in different departments, but usually like during slow times or down times or whatever, I'll go over and bug him for a little bit and keep him company.
Yeah, and that's so cool. I've had a lot of like business partners with older companies I've had over the years. I just think that's great when you have two like-minded artistic people that can come together and that can do stuff. So yeah, that's fantastic. And I'm so glad to see people tuning in tonight. Hi Doom, and nice to see you, Miss Garcia. If you can give me a thumbs up in the comments just so I know things sound good and things look good, that would be fantastic. All right, Jacob. So we're gonna get started here tonight. My first question that wanted to ask you personally is like, for those tuning in, can you tell us a bit about your background and how you got like started into film?
Yeah, so kind of going back to the beginning, when I was a little kid, whenever my dad would pull out the VHS camcorder to, just film anything in our family, I would immediately look to him and, like as like a little like 4, 5, 6 year old, just raise my hands up to him and be like, I want to try, I want to try.
Okay, cool.
So that's how it all started. And then just through the years, like if I could get my hands on the camera to like do a little something, I would. It really exploded when I got my first digital camcorder to be able to record and especially put stuff on YouTube. And I believe I made my account all the way back in 2009, which, I think YouTube started in I want to say 2006 or something like that. So I was on YouTube pretty early, and just that old golden time of you could put anything up on YouTube, and it always had a chance of
Yeah.
a bunch of people seeing it. Which funny thing, thinking back on that, like a bunch of people could be 50 or 100, and you'd be like, oh my gosh, that's so many. And now people are just like, is it really popular if it's not in the tens of millions kind of thing?
Yeah.
But yeah, that was kind of how it all began for me. And then I did go to film school just like Andrew did.
Hmm.
For me, it really came down to I was in community college after high school to get the core classes and stuff out of the way, and I was really trying to figure out where I wanted to go to college and what I wanted to do. And it really came down to like the last semester and even like the last few weeks of the last semester.
Hmm.
And it was either going to one school for graphic design, which I'm not particularly great at, or I had learned that there was another school closer that actually, was in driving distance and had a film program. And I was like, heck yeah, let's do that. So I
Yeah.
applied to both, and I heard back from the film school first, and I did that. And it's just kind of set me on my path now. Like I met
Great.
Andrew, I met other friends who are in film. Um, I've been able to be part of film and movie projects in the scene, in the local scene, but also even more so part of live TV, whether it's news or whether it's what I do now, which is kind of like a magazine type show where it's like different things that are all gathered around like a central focus. Um, and yeah, nowadays I'm a like a live television technical director. which, like, for anybody who doesn't know, I sit behind a large board full of very colorful buttons that have
Yeah.
all sorts of different sources and effects on them. I listen to the director of what he wants me to bring up on screen um, or do for this or that, and yeah, just I punch buttons, and sometimes I make executive decisions when the director's not sure. Um, and I help out with other things throughout the day too. Like I can floor direct, I can operate a pedestal camera, and stuff like that. And then on the side, I still do YouTube every now and then. And I really do enjoy setting up cameras and, like just really like kind of nerding out and getting deep into that, like, getting good angles, uh, figuring out like the best like mise en scene, stuff like that. But
Mm-hmm.
my major love as far as like outside of TV and outside of film, but like still in the realm, is I love video editing. I've been video editing for a long time, all the way back to the days of Windows Movie Maker.
Oh yeah,
And
man, me too, bro. That's where I got
yeah,
started too.
yep. Um, I in school I learned how to do proper nonlinear editing with Final Cut Pro, and
Mm-hmm.
then I really cut my teeth on Adobe Premiere Pro, and nowadays I
Right.
use DaVinci Resolve Studio. That is my go-to editor, and I
Okay.
love it to death.
Yeah, yeah, that's what a lot of professionals use. A lot of people really love DaVinci. I don't use it just because I think it's just so technical. There's so many knobs, there's so many buttons all over the place. But I have so many professional working friends who who just honestly think it's better than sliced bread and it's the best software out there today. I actually had a very identical like path as you did. I started out on Windows Movie Maker when I was like 13, and I cut a bunch of like backyard home shot short films using that. Then I got my first Mac when I was like in middle school, I think, and I started cutting a lot on Final Cut Pro. I'm not talking about the new Final Cut Pro. I'm talking about like the old school one that was more like more like Adobe back then. And so I
Hmm.
started on that, and then I graduated towards like using like iMovie and stuff like that, and then I went up the pipeline from there. And so then I went back to Final Cut, which was the new one. And then I went to use Adobe, and then I think I used Avid at like one time, and so yeah, now I kind of just use them all. So yeah,
Nice.
that's very interesting to hear, kind of like where you started from too. So yeah, my next question is, so like with you being so diverse, Jacob, um, like like how do you combine all these different artistic styles that you do, whether it's film or your job with TV or whether you doing stuff on YouTube? How do you like how do you go about trying to organize that?
Um, well, I mean, like,
Yeah.
I'm 35 years old and I'm married,
Mhm.
and so these days some things take more precedence over others.
Mhm.
Obviously, the TV job is what help pays the bills,
Yeah.
and that's the priority. Like,
Mhm.
I luckily I'm very blessed to have a live TV job that's basically like an 8 to 5 kind of thing.
Yeah.
And so that leaves my weekends and my evenings open, which is great. Um, as far as YouTube, which is like the next kind of thing on the ladder as far as like media stuff goes,
Mhm.
um, I have ideas and I try to write them down. I'm not as involved in making YouTube videos as I once was, and I think that's just part of like the growing YouTuber's life. If YouTube is not your job, then
Mhm.
the importance of making stuff kind of goes down over time, which I think is totally fair. And but I do still like the main thing I try to do every year without fail is I try to at least put out one Christmas drum cover because I also play
Yeah.
drums. I've been playing drums since the fifth grade, which you and I
Wow.
were talking before, and I had to I had to like do the math in my head, and I think I said it was like 24 years.
Right. Yeah. I kind
Um,
of need to do the math sometime for like how long I've been doing all this too. So yeah, I totally
yeah,
understand.
but yeah, I try to do at least one Christmas drum cover every year because Christmas is my favorite holiday. I love it.
Hmm.
And then as far as like film stuff goes, I'm not super plugged into that scene as far as like creating things at the moment. But I do enjoy, of course, I enjoy going to see movies. And when Andrew and I have a project to do, I enjoy, the creative process of all of that, whether it's like a music video we've done or whether it's and like an advertisement promo kind of thing we've done,
Yeah.
or we've even though nothing has come of it as of now, we've had the opportunity to do a little bit of script writing for somebody as well.
Oh, wow. That's so
Um,
cool.
yeah, and I actually have a couple of my own scripts that I did back when I was in school. One which was actually my master's degree thesis. My final project that I had to do before I could graduate with my master's from school. Because I did as I was telling you before the podcast, so now I can tell everybody listening.
Hmm.
I have a master's degree in script and screenwriting for cinema and television. And my final project was to write a full length screenplay for a movie, and to basically before that, or well during that, come up with like a thesis that supports why I wanted to make this movie, and like the inspirations that I took, and like kind of what my goal was in creating the movie. And I've recently ish gone back to that script to try to like look it over and see what I can update, and just kind of like get my hands back into the writing process because I uh I just really fondly look back on that time when I was able to just bury myself into it, and just like as I'm writing, I'm also imagining like all the shots of the movie and how things play out. And
Yeah,
I
that's
would,
very identical how I do things too.
yeah. But as far as like just trying to organize it, like, like I said, like the job takes priority, but I also do try to make time for the other things in order of priority to me. And uh, as long as I can keep creating something in some way, I think I'll be happy in that regard.
Yeah, and I'm really glad you said that. That's how I feel about doing this job too. Like, I talked to you a bit before we went on, started going live today about how I went through like this long period of creative burnout, and like, I just feel so grateful every day that I get to do this job because you really need to have a certain mindset, you need to have a certain mentality. It's definitely not for everybody doing this. I mean, and like, I can go into so much about why people shouldn't do this job, but for the few main reasons why I love doing this job is because of a lot of the things that you just said. And I think those are very important things to take note, because you really have to be um a very versatile person. You have to be very alert with your time and how you dedicate your time and put that into your art. And of course, there's like the financial aspects of that whole thing too, but that's for like a whole different conversation. It's just like, I just always tell people that if you really want to get into film, or you want to get into making anything artistic, there's a part of your soul that really needs to be there. And I think that's just a very important kind of aspect to that whole part. So yeah. Um, I think the next thing I wanted to talk to you about is, like, you mentioned you've been drumming for like 24 years, dude. So like, how did you get
Yeah.
started doing that?
So the beginning of the story is kind of funny. So like I
Yeah.
said, in fifth grade, that's when I first started drumming, and it's
Mm-hmm.
because in fifth grade, in that elementary school, we had a very small band program that we could do as an elective.
Mm-hmm.
And I think ultimately there was like maybe 5 of us in the entire school. It was a small school that signed up to do that. And I still remember fondly the first day where we all got to go do that. The teacher of that band course had a few different instruments out, and the first instrument that I wanted to try was the flute.
Okay.
But yeah, but I just couldn't figure out, how to like purse my lips and like, do everything right to be able to make a sound.
Mm-hmm.
So from there, I went to drums, and it all started with just a snare drum on a stand, and I took to it like a fish to water. And ever since then, I've been playing drums in one way or another. Through middle school and high school, I played I played percussion in the school band, so that was fun to be able to play all sorts of different instruments within that umbrella term of percussion. Um, and then I played like some auxiliary percussion stuff at my church for the youth band, and then eventually I started playing the drum set, like the full drum set for the regular praise band at church, and I've been doing that for years. And then I also have my own drum set that I try to get on and practice and record for and do all sorts of fun stuff with. And my drumming journey has been just a lot of fun because I've had the chance to play for a few live shows for a local rapper. I've had the chance to record drums for a very dear friend of mine who lives in Portland, Oregon, who actually found me because of my drum covers online.
Cool.
And because of that, I was able to actually record drums for one song that ended up being part of a like a video game tribute album that was a bestseller on Bandcamp.com for a couple weeks,
Oh,
which
that's
was,
awesome.
yeah, super cool. And beyond that, I've been able to since then, like I've got another friend at work who records music for people in his in his time outside of work,
Mm-hmm.
and he's told me before, and I usually am his go-to drummer as far as recording. And there's some songs on Spotify and YouTube Music and stuff, like professional, like worship style music that I've been able to record drums for, and that's been a lot of fun, especially because as a Christian who also grew up with very niche tastes,
Mm-hmm.
I I get very bored of modern worship music because it just sounds all the same, and so I want to bring something extra and spicy to it.
Yeah,
and
man.
so I so I'm glad that I can like get my unique voice into the worship sphere, even if it's like just the local sphere. Um, but yeah, like I guess to sum it all up, I'm really happy with the fact that like my drumming and my like video creation slash film creation journeys are able to cross paths a lot, especially these days. Like they pretty much walk hand in hand for the most part. And it's just a lot of fun. I love playing drums.
Yeah, and like I could definitely tell when I was watching your drumming videos on YouTube. And for those of you watching, I did put a link to Jake playing one of his holiday Christmas songs in the comments for people to go check out too. Um, but yeah, I can see that passion coming for you. But the one thing I need to ask you is, how do you play your drums in such a small space? It's because I noticed like some in not I don't mean like in all the things I saw, but there were some of them where you just have them like all like so tight like in the corner. It's like, how do you have enough space to like do that?
I make like when I first moved into that room. It's at my church, and it's a spare room that nobody uses, and so I'm able to use it, and I'm very blessed to be able to do that.
Hmm.
When I first moved in there, I took like the middle part of the room because I was the only one using it. Um, and then eventually I started being able to jam with a local guy who plays bass. His name is One Man Bass Band. If you want to look him up on Instagram and YouTube, he is fantastic. He plays six string basses, and he does all sorts of cool tapping and looping stuff.
Cool.
But I saw him live at a restaurant like years ago, and then I think it was last year where I finally got the courage to message him on Instagram. I was like, "Hey man, I'm a local drummer, and I just want to know if you ever want to try to jam together." And he said, Yeah, definitely.
Cool.
So we've been doing that ever since, and we want to record some more videos and put them out. But we also just have fun jamming. And so with him and I being able to jam together, I had to move the drum set in that room to a different spot to be able to
Okay.
accommodate room for him. But I still made sure to give myself enough room to be able to move around and be comfortable. So
Yeah.
yeah, as long as like as long as I don't feel like cramped and as long as like my kit has enough room to be able to like be spread out the way that I like it, then I'm good to go.
Cool. Cool. The next question I have for you is going to be geared more towards like drumming and filmmaking. So like when you're editing or you're directing, do you ever find yourself hearing like how things are gonna flow, like with the beats or the rhythm like of a scene, the same way you hear for like when you're doing like a song?
Yeah, like in a way I can. Like if I'm okay, so good example. When I was editing The Quiet Healing,
Yeah,
um, I would like if I had some good background music going to it, I would try to line things up so that like if I made a significant cut, it would happen at like a significant beat of the song.
yeah.
Um, but even if there's scenes where there's no music and it's just talking, like I try to kind of listen to the cadence of the speaker and try to get the pacing just right so that like if we end a sentence and then I cut to something else with their voiceover underneath, like there's just enough space where it feels like a realistic breath and it feels like somebody like actually talking and not just like a
Hmm.
commercial that's spliced together for like a 30-second reel. Like I want to I enjoy the thought of a video or a film or something having like breath in it, like like it's not just a constant barrage of talking. Like there's space for just like even a millisecond of quiet before the next sound, before the next sentence, before the next bit of music. um so there's kind of like like in that regard there's kind of like a natural rhythm to things, and when you're a video editor you get to have that fun of trying to figure out what the rhythm is for what you're making.
Yeah, yeah, and there was a particular part where you just said about trying to cut things to the beat. I watched. I've been watching a lot of behind the scenes of Stanley Kubrick's The Shining lately, and there's one part of the movie where this is very fascinating, by the way, where I think Danny comes to talk to Jack in private, and they're like just both there, and he's holding Danny and they're both talking. And so that whole scene was not meant to have a score or have any sort of um audio there except for the dialogue. But what the composers did was they matched like every tiny nuance or tiny movement they did, and they like layered it over top of that scene. And so you'll see a lot of films that will kind of do what you just kind of basically described. I can't remember the terminology for that. It's when you're trying to match things up with the movement with anything audio related. So yeah, and so I try to do that a lot in my films too. I kind of let the score kind of like try to carry the movie, and like that's a big part of when I make a movie. I put a lot of time into the score because I know that's what's gonna draw people in, and I think a lot of beginning people in film, um beginning amateurs fail to kind of conceptualize is that it's not only what you're seeing on screen, but it's also what you're hearing too. So yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Can I
definitely.
and if I can mention like a really good example,
Sure.
the movie Baby Driver, like part of the
Yes, definitely Baby
yeah,
Driver.
the part of the
So
advertising
good.
campaign was showing how like the music was edited to the beat and
Mm-hmm.
so was the action. And like those scenes are like standout scenes for that movie of like whatever music is going and having the action sync up to it perfectly. But even like the scenes where, there's, that's not happening and it's just, it's flowing around like a regular movie.
Yeah.
Like the pacing is still really good in that movie because they, like I said before, the editor and the creative team like know the rhythm of what the movie is supposed to be. But of course, like the stylized action scenes where everything's happening on the beat, especially, like the famous part in the commercials in the movie where they're playing the song Tequila and then all the
Right.
gunshots are going like pow 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 pow.
Yep.
It's
Yep.
so great.
Yeah, and I'm so glad you brought that up. And like it was just perfect timing, and I just had to like bring that up because like there's so much of that. Like I'm just that I definitely want people to go back and I want people to rewatch The Shining because there's so much of that put into that movie where like to like it's basically like whenever you see a character move or say something or do something, the score will kind of like match up with what they're doing. So it's very interesting stuff. I can't remember the name of like the scientific term of that, but yeah, it's
Yeah.
just very interesting stuff. We're going to talk more about film scores now. So like, what was the first movie score that you ever heard that like stuck with you?
Oh man. I should have thought about this one beforehand.
Oh, no worries,
Uh,
man.
the, the first movie film score that really stuck out to me.
Yeah.
Um, I am going to have to say it was either I'm gonna have to say it was either Pokemon the movie 2000
Okay.
or Tarzan, the Disney animated
Cool.
movie.
Those
Yeah,
were
because
not what I was expecting to hear. Yeah, please go into a bit more detail why.
yeah, so I'm a huge fan of animation, and I really tend to gravitate towards animated media of almost any kind. Like
Mm-hmm.
I appreciate like film and all of its aspects, but I love animated movies, and with Tarzan, like that soundtrack just slaps because Phil Collins was amazing on it.
Yeah.
Like I recently just went back to listen to some of it, and I keep humming "Son of Man" to myself because that's such a,
Mm-hmm.
a killer song.
Yeah,
But
definitely.
then also with Pokemon the movie 2000, the like the climatic orchestral piece where it starts out with like the ocarina playing the little melody and then like the
Mm-hmm.
music just swells and becomes this beautiful gorgeous arrangement, as like as the ice and the snow end in the movie and the sunshine comes out and all the Pokemon are going back to their rightful places and Lugia is like finishing up and like getting ready to go back underneath the sea. Like there's just this, like the animation is gorgeous and the music is just perfectly in service of it, and it's just this beautiful melody that I love. And man, like I have like the song file of that climatic song like somewhere on my computer. I like to just listen to it every now and then.
Yeah.
Um, and there's probably like been things in film even before then that like stood out to me, but as far as I am now, like those are the two, like I think maybe the earliest ones that I can think of where I was just like, oh, this music slaps.
Yeah, and so interesting you brought up of those movies. My younger brother loves Pokemon, and that's like one of his favorite movies, childhood movies. And then
Oh,
I
nice.
love Tarzan. This might get a bit emotional for me, but I'm actually adopted, so I've like always connected to like the whole Tarzan story. I
Oh
just always
yeah.
loved that movie when I was a kid, and yeah, I mean, I think what made that movie so successful was just how good the soundtrack was. And so that's how important having a good soundtrack or having a good score is like in your movie, because I don't think it would be as popular today like if they didn't have it like the way they did. Like it just made you kind of like want to like jam out. So yeah.
Yeah, definitely.
Yeah, definitely. But my next question is like, um, what in your opinion makes a great film score? Like, do you think it's the melody? Do you think it's the overall atmosphere, or the emotion, or do you think it's something completely different?
I've always been of the mindset that like a good film score is going to be in service of the movie where it elevates the scene, but you don't necessarily realize that it's there. But a great film score is going to do that. Plus, it's going to have a few signature standout moments that cause the audience to remember that melody and those lines. And have like some lay motifs that will
Yeah.
come back throughout the movie. And for example, one of my favorite film scores of all time is the score to How to Train Your Dragon, the animated
Oh,
one, the
okay.
first one. I love that soundtrack. I love that film score,
Yeah.
and it's got a few melodic leitmotifs that come back over and over again to inform scenes and to just kind of show progression throughout the movie. And like I think overall, I think it's a great in that category, a great film score because it does
Yeah.
service the movie where it needs to, and like it elevates the scenes that it needs to without standing out too much. But when it does stand out, it does it in a proper and good way and doesn't distract from what's happening because it it gets you hyped up. Like it'll make you like dance in your chair or make
Mhm.
your goose pimples go up
Yeah.
and stuff like that.
Yeah, and that's how I felt. Like even when you mentioned that film score, I immediately just remembered it. And for me, like the film score has this way of like making you feel like you're flying kind of, which is kind of the whole purpose because it's about this boy trying to train this dragon and trying to like they're both having to learn to fly together. So yeah, and so those are the kind of emotions that you can provoke like in a film score. And I think that kind of goes in tandem with what I was kind of saying to you before we went live is that there's some things in this business you can't just like teach people. And I think them having that kind of like and having a composer who can just understand from like a musical perspective like how to provoke um certain feelings or thoughts or I guess emotions like through a song that way to make people feel that kind of like environment. I think that's what makes a film score so great.
I agree.
Yeah.
And like another like good example, I can't name a movie specifically, but like if you have a scene that's really dramatic, like sometimes the rawness of having it quiet except for like the voices or the sounds in the scene
Mhm.
can be strong enough to, elicit emotion and, elicit if if the scene calls for it, like, the audience to cry. But like if you have just the right touch of like piano or strings or something like that, or acoustic guitar, and just to name like very specific instruments,
Mhm.
that little extra touch of playing, like a melancholy or sad melody to underscore but prop up a scene is going to get the waterworks going.
Yeah.
I remember, I remember the hardest I've ever cried watching a movie was, oh man, what is it called? uh, uh, oh man, I wish I could remember. I'm going to try to look it up real quick. Uh,
That's fine if you can't remember right now, but I think for
okay,
me,
I did find it. Yeah.
okay, what did you find?
So the movie is called A Monster Calls. It came out in 2016.
Okay.
Um, and ultimately it's about I don't want to spoil too much, but it's about a son who is dealing with the ongoing trauma of a mother with chronic illness, and it's getting worse throughout the movie. And like the
Okay.
hardest I've ever cried was where he admitted like the true secret feeling that he felt deep down, which I was not expecting him to say. And that was already, tough enough. But like the music that was like swelling and getting louder underneath as the monster, quote unquote, is trying to pry that knowledge out of him to get him to finally admit it. Like, man, like when I say I wept in the movie theater, I straight up I wept. Like it
Okay.
was just it all just came together in such a powerful sequence that like it yeah, it deeply resonated with me.
Do you know who made the movie? I kind of remember the title, but I'm gonna definitely need to go back and check it out.
Yeah, the movie was directed by J.A. Bayona,
Okay.
screenplay by Patrick Ness, and the music was by Fernando Velasquez.
Okay, so is that like is that like a foreign film, or is that like a international film?
It was filmed in the UK.
Okay.
So I guess for us Americans, it's technically a foreign film, as much as
Okay.
a UK film can be. But it's got Sigourney Weaver and Felicity
Okay.
Jones and Liam Neeson in it.
Oh wow. Wow. Yeah, I think I vaguely remember like what you're referring to. Okay, cool. I'll definitely check that out. Um, I'm so glad we're getting kind of into the details of like film scores and all that stuff, but I want to kind of touch base on something else real quick, and then we'll come back to this discussion. So, you do video editing too, and I kind of wanted to pick your brain on how you put together the film you made with your friend Andrew, who also was here to talk with me on the last week's episode, and you put together the film The Quiet Healing. And so, just the first thing I need to ask you is like, how long did that process take?
The so you mean like just the video editing process,
Yeah.
or
Yes.
I would say um, off and on, it probably took about a year of video editing.
Wow.
Um,
That's a
uh,
lot.
yeah, because as he mentioned, like it started out as like it was just going to be this like very short, like maybe half an hour, maybe less, short film to make for the veteran
Mm-hmm.
that he could have and that he could show around and stuff like that. But then we realized that like the story he was telling us, it needed to be like full length and it needed to have a lot more into it.
Yeah.
Um, and so, uh, so I can, this is a fun part that I can say since I was the editor of the movie. I edited that whole thing on Adobe Premiere Pro CS6. So this is
Oh.
before the subscription model and all that.
Yes. Yeah.
Um, and man, it's looking back on it, I'm so glad I was able to complete that film on that program because like Adobe programs are great, but they can't get past the
Yeah.
jokes that are very accurate about like, oh, it crashed.
Right. Yeah.
um
Mm-hmm.
uh but yeah, like it just like the whole process of figuring out like how to expand it, and then like especially trying to figure out like how to fill in some of the holes with the details about like his past that we just didn't have picture or video for. um just that facilitated having to really be thoughtful about how to edit certain parts and what to include and sometimes what not to include. um I think one of my like a couple of my favorite non-film slash non-animated parts of those movies is where I was trying to figure out how to properly convey when he's talking about PTSD,
Mm-hmm.
and I had the really cool B-roll that I put up on screen of like like you could call it like it looks like galaxies or something like that, but it was this really cool B-roll of basically like I think like paint or ink or something like that, like slowly spreading on like a glass surface and then like edited to look that way it did with like the greens and reds and stuff like that. Um, and I appreciate what you said earlier about like enjoying like how I did titles and stuff like that in there
Yeah.
because I kind of I think I knew pretty early on that I wanted that scraggly effect
Mm-hmm.
on the movie as far as the titles and stuff like that because first of all it's just it looks good. It's it's moving images that look good.
Yeah.
But I think it also reflects the mind of Toby in that movie of how it's
Okay, cool.
at his
So like
it's kind of
that's why
scraggly.
you did that? Was you did
Yeah,
the scraggly titles to do that? Okay.
yeah, I felt like the scraggly like animation kind of looking titles. I think it reflected, the tone of the movie and like kind of the mind of Toby at the time.
Mm-hmm.
Um, and while I'm talking about like some aspects of the movie, Andrew did a good job of mentioning like a lot of people we worked with, but there was a couple more people I wanted to shout out.
Sure.
One of our other music makers for the movie was Amy Waters, which she is the person that I originally got together with on YouTube years ago to make music for, and that's the one that I got to be part of that best-selling Bandcamp album.
Mm-hmm.
So I just wanted to give a shout out to Amy Waters, and anybody listening, please go check out her channel because she makes incredibly good covers / arrangements of popular music, usually video game music.
Cool.
And then I just wanted to give a shout out to the animators of that movie, RGX Supersonic. You can find him on social media, and Kdoyu, that's Kadou or Kadoyuu. I'm pretty sure she's on social media as well. But I just wanted to give a special shout out to them, and without all of the people that we collaborated with, the movie would not have been as great as it is. And
Yeah.
yeah, just
Like I could definitely tell. And like another question I wanted to ask Andrew when he was on, but I felt like you would be more kind of geared to kind of more properly go into detail about this. Is like when I went and rewatched The Quiet Healing today, I noticed what you mentioned. Like I think I mentioned I saw you use some stock footage files. I'm not sure, but it looked like you did for that project.
yes, I had to
Okay.
use quite a bit of stock footage to fill in
Okay.
the gap in some stuff too.
Yeah, and that's good, and like there's nothing wrong with using that. I actually use a lot of that too in my projects as well. I just wanted to ask because I was very curious to know. But the next question about that project I wanted to specifically ask is that you mentioned, there were so many other people kind of involved in putting the whole project together. How did you go about like going to these different people to help get certain things you needed to put in the film? Like would they just send you stuff and you would put stuff in, or was there more of like a process to all that?
There was definitely a process for all of it.
Yeah.
With the exception of Andrew's friend that he mentioned, Sam Papagallo.
Mm-hmm.
Uh, uh, with the exception of him, everybody else who we collaborated with was like good dear friends of mine, that I've known for
Yeah.
years. Amy Waters, my wonderful one of my best friends who passed away, Ben Mason, who did a lot of the just regular acoustic guitar stuff for the movie.
Yeah, I think Andrew
RGX
mentioned that.
Supersonic,
Mm-hmm.
yeah, RGX Supersonic, KDOU, and a couple other people were just like friends of mine who
Okay.
I asked if they could lend their talents to this, and like they didn't do it for free. I made sure that they all got some sort of pay one way or another,
Yeah.
and I'm so grateful that they for a no budget movie where Andrew and I were paying out of pocket to do a lot of stuff. I'm
Mm-hmm.
really glad that they all were able to work with the budget, the amount of money I was able to give them. But
Mm-hmm.
it was definitely a process. For the music, I had to basically I had to select scenes in the movie and confirm with Andrew where I thought music and specifically certain types of music should go, and then I kind of split them up, and I
Yeah.
sent little like test videos out to the different people for them to
Okay.
watch the scene and figure out how the music should go for those scenes.
Okay,
And
cool.
then as far as the animation, I would write down like certain parts of Toby's story that I felt would lend best to having an animated segment, and I got together with my animators and basically told them my vision of what I wanted, and they knocked it out of the park every single time.
So, like, when you refer to your animators, how many people are you referring to, and how long did it take them to do a specific job or scene that you told them?
So I had two main animators and another friend who helped out with some storyboard stuff for them. Um, I think the quickest turnaround I had for a scene was, I think, a week.
Okay,
And
wow,
yeah, I know, yeah,
dang,
and a longer turnarounds, like I guess the more common turnarounds were anywhere between 3 weeks to a month
yeah,
for a scene.
okay, cool. Yeah, I don't have as much of a animating background. I've always wanted to. I just don't have the patience because it takes so long. But I
Yeah.
will say I just truly admire people who can do it.
Me too.
just because it takes so long. Um, my next question I wanted to ask you is like, when you are editing a project, how do you decide what kind of music or score or tone kind of like will fit best? So like what I'm specifically saying is like for a scene, how do you go about cultivating what type of score that you would like to like put into that scene?
I think it helps that my musical taste in general of just like what I listen to day to day is very eclectic. I'll move, especially with some playlists I've made for myself. I'll move almost seamlessly from like really heavy metal music to jazz music to like just acoustic songwriter music to worship or Christian contemporary music to just straight up rock music to hip hop. Um, and then even just like some really random stuff that basically you can only find on YouTube from small creators.
Yeah.
um, and so because of that eclectic taste, uh, I'll look at a scene, especially from like the Quiet Healing, but also just like for uh, like promotional advertisement projects or stuff like that,
Mm-hmm.
and I'll try to like really analyze like what's happening, what's the goal of what they're saying, or what's the goal of this piece, and try to match music to the mood. So if it's
Okay.
if it's like a promo advertisement thing, usually I'll just try to find like some royalty free music that sounds good, that
Mm-hmm.
like if I have to loop it, it won't be annoying to loop. But I try to find that good line of like, this sounds good and it's fitting the tone of what's happening. um
Yeah.
and then like with the movie, if I had to like figure out what kind of feeling I wanted for it, um usually I could just like, when I was working with my musician friends, I was able to like kind of send them the scene and they could kind of figure it out on their own, but I also definitely gave notes
Okay,
about
good.
like the tone of how it should be. Like, should it be happy, should it be melancholy?
Yeah.
Yeah.
And I think that's how most composers work. I don't know if I mentioned this enough, but I do dabble in composing. I don't do
Ooh,
it like full time, but normally how I get my movies composed is that I will kind of like make a rough cut of the project with like temp scores, and then I'll send it off to the people and kind of talk with them about what type of emotion that I'm trying to cultivate in certain scenes, and then they'll send something back to me that's like just just 10 times way better. So that's kind of how
nice.
I go about it. I know not everyone does it that way. Sometimes I don't need to send them temp scores. Sometimes I will just kind of send them the scene and they can kind of know how to do it, or they know me, or they know my style, and they already can kind of see how I want things to sound. But then there are some times where I will have to kind of like describe to them what kind of sound that I'm trying to need for like a for uh for for certain scenes. So yeah, I think all composers go about it their own way. So, but yeah, my next question is so like um if you could have if you could have any composer work on your films, which one would you choose?
Any composer.
Yeah.
I would have to. So two people come to mind immediately. Um, John Powell, who did the soundtrack for How to Train Your Dragon,
Yep.
because just beautiful score, love it. But also uh, an up and coming composer named Jesse Ribordi, who he was he's the main songwriter of my favorite band in the world called Falling Up. And excuse me, he's really been it's been really cool to watch his and the band's musical journey throughout the years, because it started out as just like like a Christian like hard rock band, new metal kind of thing, but it's really um, evolved into like this experimental band that's actually undergone a name change recently. And he actually recently got to do some composing for oh, what I forget the name of the movie, but it's a John Dillon movie that came out recently.
Yeah.
And if I could have Jesse
Mhm.
Raborti on there, that'd be awesome as well. Also, do you mind if I excuse myself for just a second?
Sure. Yeah, no problem, man. I will keep talking. So yeah, no problem, buddy. But yeah, I just wanted to add in here for the people who are tuning in. Just thank you so much, guys, for being here. This means a lot to me and what I'm trying to do and trying to help promote very talented people that I work with every day. And just it means so much to me just to see people come here and to tune in. So yeah, I think for me, like I said, when it comes to scores, I think that a lot of beginner filmmakers really need to take the score into mind, because when I watch a lot of independent film and from filmmakers who are brand new, I really see they don't have much of their attention on the score, and it truly makes a big difference. So that's why I'm so glad to be talking to Jake tonight and to kind of be talking with you guys and to be talking with the world a bit more about how important having a good score is to having a good film. So but yeah, just that I think this topic really does need to be talked about more. Um,
And I agree. And I'm
oh
back.
yeah, definitely. Okay, that was perfect timing. So, do you remember where you were talking about before?
Yeah, I remembered that. Yeah, as far as like if I had the chance to make a film and
Hmm.
choose my composers,
Yeah, yeah,
it would be. I would love to work with John Powell or Jesse Raborti, and actually, there's another one if I can mention somebody.
sure.
I would absolutely love to work with Adam Young, who is the main driving force behind the band Owl City, which, if you know the
Yes,
song
I do.
Fireflies,
Yeah,
yes. I love Owl City. I'm a huge fan of them. I've seen them twice in concert, and he
cool.
is just fantastic. But the main reason I would want to work with him is because a few years ago, actually, at this point, I want to say maybe 2025, maybe 7, 8 years ago, something like that. He kind of took a 1 year break from Owl City to focus on this year-long project where I think besides January and I think February, no, I think he did something for February. Every single month he put out a full album of composed like instrumental, orchestral, whatever music. And the theme around each one was basically making a like a film score type of soundtrack to different historical events. So one month was called Corduroy Road, where it was the final march in the Civil War towards peace. Another one was was based around the first flight from North America to Europe, the very first like transatlantic flight. And then another one was about the Voyager satellite and just its travels through our solar system. And each one has its own musical identity and it's just so full of like rich and wonderful melodies and music. And like I think that series of albums just proves that Adam Young has some very serious musical and composing
Oh
chops.
yeah, definitely.
And if I had the chance to work with him, I would love that. And actually, it's really cool. Like, like I love watching and being part of uh, artists and bands and watching their journey throughout their careers. Because with Falling Up, it was, becoming more and more experimental, having this sort of like concept album, sci-fi rock kind of thing
Hmm.
going on, and now they're called the Chilling Alpine Adventure. And their story is so cool. I'm actually planning on making a YouTube video about it because I love their story. And then with Owl City, with Adam Young taking that year off to make that series of albums, you
Hmm.
can really hear that influence from that time into the newer music, starting with the album Cinematic, and then with his most recent album Cocoa Moon, there's more elements of like 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 film score, essentially, like big sweeping like orchestral moments. And then you
Mm-hmm.
also, it's fine to have like a song that has like these big orchestral bits, and then the next song is like kind of a standard fare of like kind of like electro pop or electro pop rock kind of thing. And
Yeah, yeah.
it's just, I love the journey.
Well, it's so interesting you brought him up because I actually had a friend many years ago who knew him. I don't know him
Ooh.
personally, but just that this was an old friend of mine from I think middle school who like knew him. I'm not friends with this person now, so unfortunately I can't get his contact. but but yeah, he somehow had connections to him many years ago, and so like this was right at the time when he first started to get famous with that
That's super
song
cool.
Fireflies, I think you mentioned. And
Yep.
for all my Disney theme park fans out here, he also did some of the score for the Wreck-It Ralph films, and
Hmm.
he did I think he made a new score for the new Paint the Night parade that they're doing over there now,
Oh,
which is
cool.
so cool that you like brought him up. But yeah, I've always been a big fan of like his songs and like his style. So yeah,
Cool.
that's very cool. I think for me, if I had to choose a particular composer to compose any of my films, it would be Hans Zimmer. So,
Yes.
and of course, he did the score for The Dark Knight. He did the score for like Inception, and yeah, like obviously his scores are very well renowned today. So yeah, definitely. Wanted to ask you a very interesting question. Um, do you think artificial intelligence or like any of those like digital tools will make scores sound better, or do you think it'll become more of a problem?
I think so. I've heard my fair share of AI generated music, and as of now, I can tell when it's AI generated because there's certain
Yeah.
tells that it has, like whether like if there's like generated singing, like they usually kind of stick to the same like tone, and it just sounds like not quite right. Um, or the instrumentation, it's all, it usually just comes down to like something just doesn't sound quite right about it.
Mm-hmm.
As far as like orchestral scores, I don't think I've heard any AI generated orchestral scores at the moment.
Mm-hmm.
But as it stands now, I'm actually against AI generated art because the way it's created is that it's trained on other people's art, whether it's, music or drawn art or movies or videos or whatever,
Yeah.
and it's done so without permission from the original creators. And so in effect, it's essentially stealing,
Okay.
and I'm definitely not okay with that. uh,
Yeah.
and and of course, with movie making is a business, and the people at the top are more concerned with the numbers and not with the artistic integrity. So
Mm-hmm.
unfortunately, we're probably going to have some movies that have, hopefully not whole, but probably at least partly AI generated like orchestral scores. And it's
Yeah.
probably just going to sound really generic and like maybe even not sound quite right, like I keep saying.
Yeah.
um, I
Definitely.
am a proponent of using AI to bolster somebody's abilities. For example, I've used Google Gemini to basically look up, to be able to like give me a guide about how to get a certain guitar tone using my electric guitar, and my a program on my MacBook called Amplitude. Um, to basically I'll feed it a prompt of like, here's my guitar, the exact model and the pickups that are in it. Here is the program that I have. How can I achieve a tone by the band Reliant K from this particular album? And it'll go into the specifics of uh like it'll recognize like, from the prompt, like, this is your program, this is your guitar, here are the settings you need to do, like select these particular pedals, select this particular amp and this particular cabinet, and then make your pedal chain do this so that you can get rid of any hum from the pickups you have, and to be able to achieve a sound that's close to what it sounds like, and it works fantastically. And I think to sum it up in that way, as far as film scores go, I think AI can be a good way to kind of help somebody who may need the help figure out a foundation of what they want to do.
Yeah.
And
Hmm.
like, like maybe you could put in a prompt to AI of like, I want to make a film score that sounds similar to this movie, and this movie. What sort of instrumentation should I use, and what sort of feeling should I go for? And I think using AI as literally just an assistant would be beneficial. But
Yeah.
I think at this point, in just the whole culture and career of filmmaking, I think any composer worth their salt is not going to need AI to be able to come up with what they
No.
need to.
Yeah, definitely.
Uh, yeah, I really think it's just going to come down to like executives who own the studios, who are just like, how can we save money? Oh, we can use this AI thing. Let's do that.
Yeah. And I'm so glad I brought this up in my notes today because well, for me personally, I've been kind of feeling the same way. Like for me, getting jobs is a lot harder for me nowadays because people have so much AI at their fingertips now that like it's harder for me to get jobs. Like it's so much harder for me to try to promote myself to people, and like people can just have things automatically generated for them, whether it's scores or whether it's a lot of video editing done. And I'm kind of like I'm kind of like starting to have a hard time dealing with that too, because I've been seeing, especially like from much younger people. I'm seeing this with teens and going up into their kind of like their mid to early 20s, where like that they don't need a professional to like do a song for them or do a video composite for them now, because they can all just do it on their phone. So I don't know if you've been kind of dealing with some of that, but yeah, it's definitely been hard.
Yeah. I think the good thing is, because Andrew and I have our media business as a side business and not
Hmm.
like our day-to-day job, currently we're not terribly affected by that. I think, and it does stink that like that people can use like OpenAI's Sora and Google Gemini's like video making thing to just put in prompts, and like it makes whatever they want.
Yeah.
I think the way for people like us to be able to really push forward is to be able to recognize and understand the fact that people can do that at just the touch of a phone, at like the quick like writing of a prompt into a prompt box.
Yeah.
But I think the way that we move forward is to show that the experience, and the experience of having somebody who knows truly what they're doing, and
Hmm.
who is able to craft something, uh, and as well as staying informed about like how to tell when a video is auto generated and
Hmm.
when it looks bad. For example, there's a commercial that we run at the TV station that I'm at, where where I can tell that it's completely AI generated. I think even down to the voiceover. But like there's like the first few times I watched it, I was like, okay, this is all AI generated, except for maybe this last shot at the end, where it's definitely the hand of a woman putting down like this vial of like quote unquote holy oil
Yeah.
onto like a pedestal. But like on the third time I watched it, I noticed when her hand went away that her fingers like blended into each other. I'm like, you couldn't
Oh
even
yeah.
film
Yep.
somebody, you couldn't like film somebody to like just put a vial down onto a pedestal and then move their hand away. You had to auto generate that crappiness too. So
Right. Right.
I think it really comes down to like recognizing that yes, this is an option if you want to use it, but if you want something that is going to look good, and you don't have to worry about people scrutinizing it, and you don't need to worry about people, you don't have to worry about bad PR coming out of it, because there are people who are going to see that and be like, oh, this is auto generated, and I'm
Right.
one of the people who knows like the sketchy ethical stuff behind it. I think you can sell yourself And I think all of us can sell ourselves on that.
Yeah, and that's how I feel about it too. I'm so glad we're talking about it. Say hi to Andrew in the chat. He just popped in, so very nice
Yep.
to see you, buddy. Um,
What's up, dude?
but yeah, it's so interesting because I literally had this talk with like one of my clients 2 days ago, where he does skateboarding, and he was like, "Why should I kind of like hire you when I can just do this all on my phone?" And I'm like, so like so I was trying to like articulate in a professional way just like why people will get something much better from me rather than like trying to put a prompt into your phone or just doing it on your phone. So but yeah, I think that's a great discussion for another day. But yeah, it's just very interesting to hear. I just feel bad for you because I feel like it's more of a problem becoming with like audio because it can generate that so much more reliably um than like film. So
Yeah, there's definitely like even with when it sounds off, it still does sound very convincing.
yeah.
And I mean the good thing is like luckily making music isn't my day job either. It's just a hobby.
Mm-hmm.
Um, but I definitely I feel for people who, man, especially like touring artists and big artists who, have made their whole career on music, and first they had to deal with, the total landscape change of streaming music and how that affected their revenue stream. And now they have to deal with this again landscape changing event of AI generated music and audio that is going to really change things up. And okay, so something that really bums me out is I've seen like Christians flock to this AI generated art stuff in a bad way, of especially like with making music. Like I understand wanting to use the tool to bring glory to the creator, but because I know of the ethical just badness and sketchiness behind it, I'm just like, you're using a tool to try to glorify the creator, but you're doing something in using that tool that is hurting other people and is actually against one of the 10 commandments, thou shalt not steal.
Mm-hmm.
And
Yeah.
so using AI in this way as it is now is stealing. Um, and like, there's like, even beyond that, there's thoughts I've had about like, humans steal from each other too. And this conversation can go way, way deep, but just like on a surface slash slightly deeper level, I really feel like, especially in film, like for the longest time, Christians were, no lie, they were behind the curve on making films. Like they would make like really cheesy, really badly made stuff. And I think it's only been in like the last 5 to 6 years where Christian media is really finally starting to come into its own of like showing that it can do some unique stuff really
Yeah,
well.
definitely.
But seeing like content creators online use AI to make these really dorky, really not good AI generated things of like I remember when one of the tools came out that made it look really good. Like somebody made a compilation of like different Bible stories where like the characters were obviously like holding a phone up and say like, "Hey, this is David. I'm about to go slay Goliath," and then like another prompt of like Jonah in the belly of the whale, like, "Hey guys, I don't know how long I'm gonna film this or whatever." Just like I'm like, yeah, that's cute, but it's all AI generated, and I don't
Mm-hmm.
know if it's really doing what you want it to do.
Yeah. And that's how I kind of go about it too. I do use AI for like um for a lot of note taking and stuff, and so that's great for me.
Yeah,
But for film, like I feel like it can benefit. I feel like we're not quite to the place where like it's so perfect where you can type in one prompt and it gets it exactly the correct way. I think we're just about there, but we're not quite there. I've definitely used some AI stuff before, but like not in like big projects that I like want people to see. I do have a few things on my YouTube channel where I was like dabbling with like all the AI stuff, but it's not like for anything professional. But to kind of like we're about to wrap things up here tonight. But I just wanted to kind of ask more about your production company, Lauwood Media, with your friend Andrew, since he's here tonight too. In the comments, I was wondering if you can talk a little bit more about that partnership.
Yeah, so Andrew and I have been friends since we first met in middle school, or said middle school, since we first met in film school. Um, like we've been friends ever since, and our friendship initially uh, was bonded through a love of film and also a love of Dragon Ball Z. Because I remember
Yep.
the first project that we ever worked on was like a fan music video I wanted to make for the song "Therapy" by Reliant K. And in part of the vision of that video was to film parts of it at different parts of the day, just to get like the different lighting of the sun for that scene. And so, and it was of course like the hottest day in July when we did it. Like it was literally like over 100 degrees when we were doing that.
Yeah.
So we had to take breaks. So we would go back to my place and play rounds of Dragon Ball Z Budokai 3 in between.
Cool.
And that's still such a good fun memory. But that's how it all started. And you know, we've helped each other out with like our film school projects in the past. Like I edited his final project for his school career there. And you know, like we said earlier with the quiet healing, that's when we made our company, and that's when that's like when we decided like, hey, we actually want to go into business together and like try to make money doing this together, because we are really good friends, we're best friends, and we work well together, and you know, we could make something of this.
Yeah.
And so Lauwood Media, as it is right now, I'm glad that we specifically have like the tail name of media on it, not just like not like a very specific part like Lauwood editors or Lauwood script
Hmm.
writers or something like that, because we've been able to do a few different things. Like we're kind of like a jack of all trades company. Like we've done music videos where, you know, we do the pre-production of like planning out shots, and then, you know, like on set, like doing the video recording with cameras, and getting people in to help us out with other specialty cameras like drones and stuff. And then, you know, taking that, and we both take turns like editing stuff together.
Yeah.
Um, One part of the business that I'm very passionate about is media digitizing. So, you know, taking VHS tapes or 8mm tapes and running them through a process to be able to digitize them to make the memories last for people. Because I have my own VHS tapes that I've slowly been working on, and it's it's a very like the people that I've been able to do digitizing for, it's a very gratifying feeling
Oh yeah,
to
definitely.
be able to hand them that final product of like,
Hmm.
here are your tapes, or here is your media files, or in one case, here is your vinyl record from your adult child's band concert when they were in like 8th grade.
Yeah.
Like
Yeah.
I got like I was so excited when I figured out how to do a very clean recording of a vinyl record, and like do a little bit of post audio stuff to make it sound a little bit nicer, and
Oh, that's so
that just felt
cool.
really good. Yeah.
Well, I actually used to do a lot of that too when I was younger. I had kind of my own small business doing that type of stuff where I would take people's home tapes or not their vinyls. I gotta give you props for doing that. That sounds intense. But yeah, I've done all that stuff, and well, like you said, it's very meaningful what you're doing for people, because it's not just like a film or a movie. These are like real life moments that people have captured, and that they need to be restored, and so there is a certain amount of pride that I would take doing that, and it just meant so much to me whenever I would have a very satisfied client come to me and I would return something nice back to them. So yeah,
Yeah.
definitely. Um, the next part I kind of wanted to touch base on is some of your favorite makers, because I know we talked a bit about that before coming on today. Can you name some for us today?
Yeah. So in preparation for this, I did like a top five list of both my favorite film scores and my favorite directors because I
Yeah.
love the director talk from last episode with Andrew.
Mm-hmm.
So I can go through the film scores first since that's been the main topic of what we've been doing today.
Sure,
Uh,
yeah. We
yeah.
can do that. I think how I'm gonna do this today is that you can just kind of list yours and talk about them, and then I will list some of mine. So,
Yeah. So in order from like five to one, like out of a top five kind of thing.
mm-hmm.
Um, and I say this knowing that like this could change in the future, so this is not a concrete list.
Yeah, yeah.
um, Number five is the score to the movie Whiplash.
Oh,
Um,
yes. So good.
and, and especially
Yeah.
because I'm a drummer and because I have an appreciation for jazz music, like
Mm-hmm.
I love that one. And like of course I got to do a shout out for Caravan at the end of that movie where he's just like going absolutely crazy on the drums, doing the
Mm-hmm.
solo and everything. Oh, I love it. The next one is the score for the movie Whisper of the Heart,
Okay.
which is in the stable of the Studio Ghibli movies, the same people who made Spirited Away and Princess Mononoke and Kiki's Delivery Service.
Yeah.
So just wonderful anime movies. And the main reason I love that score is because of their use of the song "Country Roads," originally by John Denver. It's just it's a central point of the movie, that song, and it comes up a few times, and it's just beautifully done. Like especially later on in the movie, like it kind of brings you to tears a little bit with just like the recurring way that it's used.
Yeah, definitely.
For number three, I wrote down the soundtrack to Pokemon the movie 2000, and I already
Mm-hmm.
gushed about that earlier. So, yeah, I just that final climactic song just gets me every time, and I love it. Um, for number two, I have to say the soundtrack for Star Wars Episode 4, the original.
Yep.
Like, man, like, and like if you I feel like if you're anybody who loves film score even a little bit, you're gonna have like John Williams in there somewhere.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Yeah, he's definitely on my top five too. And
Yeah, and then
then, yeah.
my number one absolute favorite film score, as of now, is the How to Train Your Dragon
Okay.
film score, to the
Cool.
point where the year that it was up for an Emmy nomination for best film score, I got physically upset that it did not win, and that the movie The Social Network instead won for best soundtrack.
Yeah, I felt the same way. I because I watched The Social Network and I'm like, yeah, like it's a great movie, but
Oh,
like
it's
the
so good.
sound, yeah, the score is good. It's just not as good as like that. So
Yeah.
yeah, that's very interesting. You felt the same way. Okay, well, my top five would be, of course, pretty much any score from Star Wars. I love what John Williams does there, and just I always enjoy a good Star Wars soundtrack. The next one would be anything from the Lord of the Rings movies. Just that
Mm,
from composer Howard Shore, and just that he does a phenomenal job building the sounds for that whole universe as well. My third would be for The Dark Knight, composed by Hans Zimmer and James Newton Howard. I think that's like one of my all-time favorite um just scores in a movie. It's just so dark and it is so gothic. It's got so much energy to it. It's just iconic. And I think for four would be the score from the film Gladiator, which is also
mm,
composed by Hans Zimmer too, and he does such a good job on that as well. And then my fifth and final score would be the score from Inception. So, and
yeah.
so he did the score for that too. So I'm a big fan of what he does and kind of I guess the nuances or the tones or those big deep sounds that he makes for his scores. I'm just a big fan.
Yeah. Yeah, that man, Hans Zimmerman is, like, so good. He's
Yeah,
fantastic.
yeah. And yeah, I definitely feel like he's gonna like go down as one of the best in probably in the industry right now. Like he just does such great scores.
Yeah.
So as far as your favorite film directors go, who would they be?
So I'll also list these in order from, like, 5 to 1 as far as the top 5.
Sure.
Number 5 for me is hopefully this isn't cheating, but it's the duo of Chris Sanders and Dean DeBlois,
Okay.
because they were the directors for both Lilo and Stitch and How to Train Your Dragon.
Yeah.
And just the way that, like, I think, like, Lilo and Stitch is such a good movie, and, like, what they did with Stitch really informed how to create a bond between a human and just a creature of some sort, a fantastical creature, and just the bond between Hiccup and Toothless in the movie How to Train Your Dragon is spectacular, and I love just being in that every time I watch it. Number 4 for me is Guillermo del Toro.
Yes.
Yes, because that dude is like, man, like the Pinocchio movie that came out not too long ago, and The Shape of Water, and then man, I love the original novel of Frankenstein
Mm,
by Mary Shelley,
yeah, I do
and
too.
to the point where I recognize its historical significance, but there's only 2 movies that I can legitimately say that I hate, and one of them is the old school Frankenstein movie
Oh,
because
okay.
I love the original story of the novel, and the movie
Yeah.
like just like twists it up and poops it out.
Yeah.
But Guillermo del Toro has a movie coming out, I think in actually just a couple days, of
Mm-hmm.
Frankenstein, and it's supposed to be like extremely accurate to the novel. And I'm like, yes,
Yep.
please, this is what I've been waiting for years.
I was actually talking to my film professor about this today. So right now it's only showing here in Virginia Beach at the Narrow movie theater, which is an old school
Yes,
theater out in Norfolk, but it's also coming out on Netflix this Friday, people. So definitely keep on the lookout for that and definitely tune in on Netflix on Friday. So
yes,
yeah.
I'd like to
Um
see it at the Narrow if I can. Yeah.
Yeah, yeah. Same here. And then what were your last two I think you had on your list?
For number 3, I
Yeah.
have Robert Zemeckis.
Okay, great.
Because he's just classic. He's so good, and like I appreciate like how he tried to push the boundaries a little bit with some of those mocap movies, like Polar Express and Beowulf and stuff like that. And
Mhm.
those are varying results. But the movie of his that I really really love is and of course I'm so bad with names sometimes, especially like in the moment. Um, but it's the movie about the man who walked on the wire between the trade centers.
Yeah, I know what movie you're
Um,
talking about.
okay, yeah, it's called The Walk. Yeah.
Yeah. Yep.
Yeah,
Yeah.
I love that movie. It's just, oh, it's so good.
Yeah, he did a
Um,
good job on that too.
Number 2 for me is Denis Villeneuve. I never know how to say his last name. He recently directed the Dune movies, but
Okay.
I really took notice of him from the movie Arrival, because that
Yeah.
was, oh, such a good movie.
Yeah, I remember when I watched the behind the scenes for that movie after I saw it. He actually couldn't speak like full English. I don't think he does, but it's weird because like he had to like almost like write down his notes that he gave to like the cast and crew because he couldn't speak full English then, which was like so interesting to me. So,
Yeah, especially for a movie that's all about like learning to communicate.
right? Yeah, yeah.
So cool.
And the fact that he was able to do that, like practically just for like jotting down notes to give to people, I think that's just amazing. All right. What's the next one that you have on your list?
So again, this is I'm not going to say this is a concrete list that will never ever change,
Hmm.
but as far as like directors that have had a significant impact on me throughout my life, I've got to say Hayao Miyazaki of
Yes.
Studio Ghibli. So again, Princess Mononoke, Spirited Away, Kiki's Delivery Service, The Boy and the Heron, Nausicaa of the Wind, of the Valley of Wind, just all Howl's Moving Castle. And I know that being an animation director is different from being a film director because
Yeah.
usually animation directors are more hands-on with like like the drawings and the keyframes and like way more involved with the vision of the movie from like start to finish basically. But like the fact that he has been able to make these stunning beautiful worlds and these wonderful stories that like all at once make perfect sense and make no sense.
Yeah.
like like he is just such a gifted talent in this world, and it's so wonderful to be able to watch one of his movies and still be enthralled with his style and with the world he creates. And like I really feel like anybody can learn something about the craft of filmmaking from him, no matter what kind of movie they're making.
Yeah, and I'm so glad you kind of ended on him because he's just such a pioneer. Like just that he it's just that his movies not only like taught so many other generations of people in this business how to just craft a story just so magically. I think he just I just that people obviously just can see how talented he is and how he puts all that into his stories because like we were talking about this even before we went live. I was just that guys I was talking to Jacob about a movie I just saw from a YouTube filmmaker who he just had his first big box office film come out. It's called Shelby Oaks, and I was talking to Jacob, and I told him that I thought everything about the movie is great. It's just the story is just not good, and it made kind of the film not as good. And I think that having that importance on having a good story, I truly do believe that is like one of the most important parts of having a movie is that you need a grounded story. So yeah, yep. Um, but other than that, are you still here, Jake?
Yeah, I'm still here. I was just listening to you.
Okay, cool. um, was that your top person on your list, or was there one more?
That was my top person. Yep.
Okay, great. Yeah, I don't think you can top him. But yeah, some of my favorites are obviously Tim Burton. I love him. I just put so much of my style, like just not like trying to copy him, but I put a lot of my own style into what I see him do. I love Steven Spielberg. And I love Robert Zemeckis, and that's why I was so glad that you brought him up because I truly love his movies. I was trying to contemplate what is my favorite movie of all time a few days ago, and I think this is right after Andrew and I spoke on the podcast, and I gotta say, I think that for, for I'm sorry, guys. Sometimes my speech impediment gets in the way when I talk, but I think Forrest Gump is probably my all-time favorite film of all time.
Mm.
I think he did such a magical job on that, and I love, of course, The Dark Knight, and I love the person who made that. So just that I just enjoy all these artists so much. I think they all do such a fantastic job. Um, so Jake, I just wanted to wrap things up tonight, and I just wanted to ask you, is there anything extra that you would like to tell all the wonderful people tonight?
Well, there's an editing thing that I actually want to geek out with you a little bit.
Sure.
So I said earlier that DaVinci Resolve Studio is my go-to editing program,
Yeah.
and I just love it dearly. Um, and I mentioned that because hopefully at this point everyone's aware of the fact that Microsoft ended support of Windows 10 back in October, to
Yeah.
basically forcefully push everybody into Windows 11. I didn't and don't feel like shelling out the money to upgrade my custom built computer that I made, just to be able to match a few requirements that Windows wants you to match to be able to run Windows 11. So I last month made the switch over to Linux on my home PC. Um, and I did and actually, going back to AI, I used AI to distill down for me which distribution of Linux I should use to suit my needs, which is playing video games on my computer and doing uh, professional video editing on my computer. And I needed something that could specifically run DaVinci Resolve, and so I chose a distribution called Nobara because it's designed to be very like basically everything out of the box. You like easy to use, everything's included kind of thing. Only a little bit of tweaking you have to do here and there, which is perfect for somebody transitioning from Microsoft Windows. And it's, I think because of my love for video editing, I've been able to work with some of the initial like road bumps that have come from transitioning from Microsoft to Linux.
Mm-hmm.
And it's been interesting. The big thing that I learned is that uh, DaVinci Resolve and Blackmagic, the people who own it, uh, pay license fees for the use of the audio codec AAC.
Yeah,
So
they
you
do.
can, yeah, so you can use that, no problem on Windows and MacBooks, Apple products, but they don't pay for it on Linux distributions, which they do make a Linux distribution of it. Um, which initially presents as a problem, but I've since been able to figure out a workaround for it, and I love the fact that honestly, I think DaVinci Resolve is working better on this Linux version of my computer than the Microsoft version,
Okay. Wow.
just because it seems like it works like a little bit smoother, and it seems like things just happen a little bit snappier and a little bit faster than they did when I was using it on Windows. And it's
Hmm.
like it's just a little thing, but I just wanted to geek out about that because like I've
Sure.
been happy to tell people about my switch over to Linux. And like, like if anybody watching this is still in the boat of like if you have a Windows based PC or laptop, and if it still works fine, but you're either facing either having to upgrade the hardware or having to like buy a whole new product just to be able to use Windows 11, consider looking into Linux. They like Linux in the past few years has made amazing strides to be on the same level as like Microsoft and Apple products, if not better in some regards.
Yeah.
And another geeky little thing I'll mention is that like I've done quite a few internet speed tests because I run my PC through I use an Ethernet cable directly into my router, and I can tell that on the Linux side my internet speeds are faster because, and I think the prime suspect for that is because when you have a Linux distro, I think maybe except for like one or two like more corporate ones, you're not sending a bunch of telemetry data back to that corporation. Whereas if
Hmm.
you're using like Windows, it's constantly sending data back to them for analytics and stuff like that. And so I think by not having that on my Linux distro, it's freeing up space, which, in this day and age of making video creations and film stuff and having to be able to upload and download stuff, assets back and forth to people, it's definitely very helpful to have a faster internet connection.
Oh yeah,
so,
definitely, man. And
so yeah, just geeking out about this.
I'm so glad you brought that up because I've been hearing more and more people making the transition over to Linux, and so I haven't done that yet. I don't want to go like too deep off the rails with this, but I do kind of want to like just I want to ask you. So you mentioned it's kind of becoming more like I guess the software, not the software. I guess the software. I'm guessing it's becoming more like, I guess, well built. So it's not like as confusing. Is that what you were trying to say before? So it's like more organized? Is that like what you were trying to say?
Yeah, I would say that. I would say the best way I can describe it is that years ago, Linux, whenever people thought about Linux, they immediately thought about having to open up like
Yeah.
the command prompt and having to like type a bunch of stuff to make
Mm-hmm.
things work. Whereas with a lot of modern distros these days, you can do a lot of stuff with graphical user interfaces and not
Okay.
have to rely on the terminal or coding so much anymore. You still have
Okay.
to like do some of that, but there's great resources online, including honestly AI assistants to be able to help you figure out what to do. Um, and like it's like if you love using computers, it's good to know at least some stuff about like command line and stuff like that. I'm not an expert in by any means,
Mm-hmm.
but it is cool to like be able to open it up and like 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 I have to make a tweak to this. How do I do that? Okay, that's how I do it. Type, type, type. There we go. Okay, cool. Everything's working.
Yeah.
um, but yeah, like I love this Nobara distribution because, like I said before, everything just like it's like prepackaged, comes out of the box, and it's uh, you can specifically do it for like if you have an NVIDIA graphics card, like they have a version of the distribution just for that. Um, and the fact that it can run DaVinci Resolve is fantastic. Um, and then like I said before, I also really enjoy playing video games on my computer. And another thing was like back in the day, it seemed like the one of the constant threads was that like Linux can't play a whole lot of games, but they've made incredible strides where you can play just about any game you want to. The only ones you can't play are ones that have anti-cheat down into like a kernel level. So stuff like Call of Duty, Warzone, and Fortnite, those kinds of games you can't really play on a Linux system. But anything else you can just about play. And
Yeah.
they're making great strides to make all that even better. So it's super cool.
That's great. That's great. And I'm sorry to hear that Windows is finally cutting the cord on Windows 10. I know a lot of people loved it. I'm currently using Windows 11 and it doesn't bother me so much, but I definitely see why it does bother people, but I'm so glad you brought that up. Okay, Jacob, the last thing I kind of wanted to ask you before we wrap things up is that can you share one film score that just always gives you chills?
One film score that always gives me chills.
Yes.
I think, I keep talking about it. I'm gonna have to bring up the How to Train Your Dragon
Okay.
score because, especially like so something I love about the live action reboot or remake that they made for this year was that they kept the score almost completely the same, but the little touches that they made here and there, like of changing things up, actually add really really well to it. Like the scene where Hiccup and Toothless are first learning to fly completely together.
Hmm.
And during the scene where they're tumbling through the sky, in the live action movie, they added a section where it's just like acquired, like singing, like, like a minor key, like drastic part of it. And then they get back into like the orchestration and everything. And just, like the flying scenes and just, I love it, man. Like I don't know if it necessarily gives me chills, but it excites me like almost every time I listen to it.
Yeah, yeah. I think it does the same for me too. All right, guys. Well, thank you so much for tuning in tonight. This was such a great talk, Jacob. I'm so glad that your friend Andrew told me that you should come on the show. Just that you just seem like such a great guy. I've just enjoyed all our talks that we've had, even before coming on today. Just speak so much art and passion, and just said I can tell that you are very skilled in what you do. So I'm just
Well,
so
thank you so
glad
much.
to have you come on today.
I've had a genuinely very good time being on here, and it's good to be able to just talk with passion about the things you like and just geek out about stuff that you love. And
Yeah,
and
definitely.
like I feel like there's even more that we could have gone over, but
Hmm.
like we wanted to keep the podcast to a certain length, and we got day jobs, so
Yes, we do. Yes, we do. All right, guys. I hope you have a fantastic night, and I'll see you in the next one. All right. Bye.